This episode of the Marketing Chief Podcast was recorded a little while ago, but we are releasing it today because it's the start of the 40th anniversary of the Just for Laughs Comedy Festival in Montreal. And today we're talking to the president of Just for Laughs, Bruce Hills. We're honored to have Bruce with us today, talking about all things comedy. Stay tuned for this edition of the Marketing Chief Podcast. Welcome to the Marketing Chief Podcast. I'm your host, Rob Collins. If you'd like to watch this podcast and not just listen to it, head over to our website at marketingchiefpodcast.com and click on the episodes tab, or search for Marketing Chief Podcast on YouTube. Today, I'm very pleased to welcome a friend, a colleague, the head and president of Just for Laughs. GQ said he was not the most sexiest man in America or in the world,
or Canada.
But they did say he was the most powerful man in international comedy. In fact, the Globe and Mail said he was the king of comedy. He's one of Variety's 50 individuals who've impacted comedy. Please welcome Bruce Hills to the podcast. Bruce, welcome.
Good to see you, sir.
It is good to see you. So tell us, Just for Laughs, one of the iconic brands in comedy. You guys are in all types of festivals and TV and digital and many things I'm probably not even aware of across the globe. Tell us about Just for Laughs and why you're so funny.
Well, listen, the festival business, our business emanated and still sort of the heart and soul is our festival in Montreal, Just for Laughs Montreal. We're going to celebrate our 40th anniversary this summer in July.
Right? Yeah.
So anyone, anywhere, please come visit us and let us celebrate with you, and please celebrate with us. But what we've done over a while, including the festival we did for a number of years with your former employer, TBS in Chicago, is create unique festivals around the world to grow the brand, to produce more comedy in every corner of the world where we feel there's an opportunity. Currently, we have 3 festivals in Canada: the Montreal event, as I mentioned, Toronto, and Vancouver. Okay. We also have a festival in Sydney, JFL Sydney, at the Sydney Opera House. That's been going on for a decade. And we've recently, I'll put my t-shirt up here, partnered with the lovely people at Moon Tower in Austin, Texas. Okay. They are also going into their 10th anniversary this April, and we have partnered with them to expand what that festival is in Austin and, help them make them even better than they are today. And it was already an awesome event, so we're just going to make it a little bit more awesome, hand in hand with them. And just a couple of weeks ago, we announced that we are going to England and partnering with AEG to produce a comedy festival at the O2, the Arena Complex in London, England. And that's going to happen in March 2023. So we're going to be really, really busy over the next little while.
Well, you've always been busy. I mean, the festivals that I've been to, I was at the Montreal Festival one year, and of course we did the Chicago Festival. I mean, you pack so many shows into so many venues in a short time period. How many shows do you typically do in a festival, or how many tickets do you sell across the globe in a year?
Well, listen, that's a good question. I mean, the Montreal event it's officially over 10 to 11 days, depending, but we really run for 30 days. So we can sell up to 300,000-400,000 tickets. We also have over 1 million people on the street. One year when we had perfect weather and no rainouts, we had over 2 million people celebrating with us in Montreal and checking out shows, free shows on the street, paid shows indoors, so that we could have up to 35 venues on any given night. We don't have another festival, nor do we really think we need to add a festival of that scale.
Sure.
What's most importantly is creating an event that's built to spec. How can we create a comedy festival in a city that people feel is theirs, that feels unique, does not feel like it's a save as. I mean, I think, Rob, we were successful in Chicago after a couple of years, as we sort of learned that we really needed to make sure Chicago didn't feel, we never started with a vision to say, hey, we're just going to copy Montreal. But once we really got to know the city and realize our festival had to have a clear identity, you build it from that perspective. You know, we've learned it's really hard to please everyone. So you better be clear on what the proposition is. You better be relatively clear on what the demographic is. Because I'll give you a good example. It was actually with the work I did with you guys in Chicago. The first year I saw the poster, the billboard, driving down the highway, I went, I won't even mention the artist, but there were 5 very different artists. And what hit me was there's no one audience for this. And I don't know if someone looks at that billboard, are they going to be interested in our comedy festival? Because it didn't have a unifying point of view. Okay. So from that point forward, we really focused Chicago on a clearer proposition. And quite honestly, it was, hey, let's entice young, smart comedy fans, cool, connoisseurs of comedy or comedy nerds and beyond. But we don't want to please everyone. Let's try to find a focus. And we started to book accordingly. Even though there were all kinds of amazing artists we had in the first couple of years, we decided sometimes, the blue collar proposition, which was fantastic, and we had lots of success in touring the blue collar, it didn't really fit the point of view of Chicago in the last in the last 3 or 4 years of that event. We went a different route. So fans would look at a billboard and say, oh, I want to go to that event. Not, oh, I recognize one person, or I because everyone, an audience would see a billboard where they would see numerous faces they wanted to see. So all of a sudden they checked into the event because it connected with them. And we learned a lot from that. It sounds like a really simple thing, but sometimes you just have to, have that moment where you look up at something and go, oh, that's not right. You can't please everyone. Let's please the people that want to buy comedy tickets. And most importantly, Rob, try to get, and this is what we do in our Toronto event, which is a pass-driven event. Okay. Is that what we want is we want someone to populate as many shows as humanly possible. Once you convert a fan, why not get them to do 4 shows? Find a proposition that gets them to show up 4 times versus once and out. Because, you already know, you're a marketer. You get through to getting them to press buy. Well, how are we getting them to push a button to buy 3 more tickets? And how can we make that attractive to them? Well, the first thing is you got to offer them something they want to see. And then, of course, the more they see, the more you probably want to make it more affordable for them, more attractive on a price point. But you definitely got to show them something that has more than one show they want to see. So we started to really focus in on that. I'd say Montreal is probably the only event where we try to please everyone, and we're pretty successful because it's such a massive event. Right. And it's been around for so long. We get such a huge amount of tourism. But everywhere else, every event has a point of view and a clarity of what it is. Well, and a very specific point of view. Yeah.
Right. A very specific point of view, which just really talks about how the product and the brand need to work together to attract an audience. And you've done a great job of kind of the newcomers and, giving even college kids, a stage and a platform. Talk a little bit about how you bring in new talent and how you expose them to audiences and audiences to them.
Well, listen, that's a good question. And look, the thing that broke our Montreal event was discovering talent. And Rob, largely why it became such a big event annually for Hollywood executives and entertainment and comedy executives around the world, but primarily Hollywood, to come and find the next big star. So, in the late 80s, Craig Ferguson, Rowan Atkinson, Lenny Clark, that ended up selling his show, Lenny, off the back of an appearance at JFL, Tim Allen, basically presenting home improvement on a stage for all intents and purposes. His point of view that led to obviously one of the biggest sitcoms of that decade.
Sure.
And then Chappelle at 19 and Kevin Hart
At 19.
et cetera, et cetera,
Wow.
et cetera. I mean, half the cast of SNL, over the years, actually just recently, our New Faces program, which I'll speak to in a second. When the new cast for SNL was announced, there were 3 new members this summer. All 3 came out of our New Faces program. One as recently as 2 months ago. So, it's so important for us, not only for our fans to see young and great new talent, but to feed that talent to people that can give them opportunities to help them launch their careers. Listen, sometimes the exposure at JFL leads to 5 club bookings when you're an up-and-coming comic, and that could be the difference of paying your mortgage. It could also be the event where Steve Harvey walked on an unknown and walked away with a sitcom in 24 hours.
Are you on a JFL stage?
Yeah. Wow. So I actually I saw Steve Harvey in a club in Dallas, Texas, and booked him 4 months later, and he got a deal on a napkin in a bar right after his show. and that deal changed his career. I mean, just recently he posted something. He posted something on, I think he was filming one of his talk shows or something, and he talked to the audience about that experience and posted it. So not that I'd forgotten, but it refreshed my memory. I said, oh my God, that's true. And it was 1992. So it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But that's a big part of what we do. And for the people that are listening to us tonight, should go on, if you have Amazon Prime, and go on and find something called Inside Jokes. That's a doc series that we produced with a company out of LA. And it basically follows the path of young comedians wanting to make it to Just for Laughs and to get into our New Faces program. This is where we put most of the up-and-coming comics. And it follows comics from all over the United States, primarily out of LA and New York, as they try to get booked for Montreal. And I think it will give you, and if you're interested, give you a really interesting perspective on the impact that program can have. And when you think about it, Rob, it's kind of crazy that an American comic living in LA has a career break in a French Canadian town in Montreal when they're in a comedy club, possibly a 5-minute drive from the person that discovers them in Montreal. But we don't want to change anything. We're happy they both get on a plane and it happens in Montreal. That's a very important part of our model, because if you're there early in someone's career, and you're good to them and you offer them an opportunity, most of the time, if you know how to grow with them, they'll stay with you. Listen, Kevin Hart was a new face. I think, it was a couple of months after being basically, an up-and-coming comic. He was a year earlier, it was a shoe salesman in Philadelphia, came and performed on New Faces, got a massive amount of attention. A couple of years later, he worked on one of our galas, where we tape stand-ups performing in front of 3,000 fans with celebrity hosts. That's a big part of our program. 5 years later, he's becoming a star. He's doing arenas in certain parts of the States, but he says he still wants to come to JFL, even though he can't sell an arena out at that point. He says, I'll do an underplay. I'll play the 1,000-seat club. So we do 2 shows there. We could it was hard for us to fit the production of that tour into that venue. But Kevin was willing to do it because he felt some loyalty, a great deal of loyalty to us, and wanted everyone to see that hour, even though he was probably getting a way better paycheck in most other places in North America. And then, from that, he became a huge star. He played the arena. And then when he launched his own, production company and a platform called LOL, he called me and said he wanted to partner on content. And we partnered, and I partnered with Kevin for many, many years, and I'm sure we will again. And the reason was hey, I want to make content at the #1 comedy fest in the world. 2, I love you guys and I want to work with you.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great working relationship, because obviously Kevin doesn't need us anymore. But the fact that he feels compelled to do things with us and be at Just for Laughs, and I would be very surprised if he's not back this July, it's because of the rewarding relationship that we've had. And that's what we aspire to do with every comedian. And listen, we miss Rob. It's not like we see every star on the rise. We miss people.
Sure.
Not everything works as magically as Kevin Hart, but when it does, it's awesome.
And you've established that brand over 40 years. I mean, Montreal is the pinnacle. It's where everybody wants to be seen. How did the company get started? How did Just for Laughs begin?
Well, our original owner started the company in 1983 as a French comedy festival.
Okay.
And in year 3, Canadian TV network CBC said, hey, we're buying your rights in French. Would you do this in English? And he brought on some people over the first couple of years, including Andy Nolman, a gentleman that you might have met,
sure,
who was working with me at the time when we did Chicago. And he got the job to run Just for Laughs. And luckily for me, we hit it off. And within a couple of years from that, he wanted me to go around the world looking for comedians because he got bored of being in comedy clubs. And I said, hey, I'll do it.
I'll do it, yeah.
So, yeah, from like 1988 to early 2000s, I was scouting all over the world. That's, where I was able to build these relationships early with comics. Those relationships still this day, still hugely rewarding for me personally on the event. And then around, I think in 2000, I got the job of COO when actually Andy left, and they handed the baton to me, and I've been running things ever since. And we're still rocking and rolling. We've had an interesting 2 years, Rob, like everyone.
Sure.
We've been able to continue to make a lot of great content. We had a hybrid event last summer in Montreal, and are planning hopefully a full 100% capacity, Americans allowed in without quarantine, all that stuff waived out, and have the event this summer like it always is. Hopefully, yes, in a safe and great environment for everyone.
Yes, please wave us in. And the Montreal Festival is really unique in that when I was there, all the street performers, and there was just so much activity going on and around. It wasn't just what was in the clubs and the venues. So
that's a big part of it, is try to create that atmosphere. So you walk out of a hotel or a restaurant, you bump into a free show, you see a screen that tells you there's a show on at 10 o'clock you want to see, you go buy a ticket. So, you get a little bit of free shows on the street, but you also buy a ticket, and then you turn around and there's a late night show that you want to go to and hang out with your friends. Just try to create as, fulsome an experience in the comedy space as possible anytime you show up in our neighborhood.
Yeah. And then because of your relationships and because of your longevity, now you also do or have been for a while industry awards, and you're able to bring in top talent for industry awards. How did that come about?
Well, you know what? It was interesting. There was a strong perspective out there that a lot of comedians said to us, and even our past owner, that people really appreciate awards and people show up for awards. And I was like, oh, I don't know, does someone need another comedy? So do we really need another another award show? But let me tell you, it was interesting, Rob, when we started to award people, started to put this award show together and reach out to people to tell them that, the committee voted on them for this award, et cetera, et cetera. The incredible array of people that were honored and willing to show up, Jim Carrey, Amy Poehler, Gary Shandling, you name it. All these people, we might have chased them to do something else or to host something or to perform in a major venue. And they said no, but we say, hey, how about come up and, we'd love to give you Comedy Person of the Year, and boom, they're in Montreal accepting the award. And we realized that comedy, very, very, no big surprise, but took us a while to figure it out. No one gives comedians awards. Comedy films don't get any respect in any award show. Maybe some People's Choice Awards, but not an Academy Award. They don't win awards. Even in the Golden Globes, the drama is going to win it. The dramatic actress is going to win the acting award, not Jim Carrey, unless he does a dramatic role.
Right.
So that's been a great program for us. Last summer, we did a virtual version of the award show and gave awards to Ted Lasso, to Chappelle, to Bowen Yang from SNL, to Hacks. It was star-studded and very, very successful for us. So we just can't wait to do it live in person this summer.
Yeah, and the one that I went to years and years ago was, I think it was the award for Gary Shandling. And I was amazed at his peers that were there to A, roast him, and B, celebrate with him. And it was a memorable event for me, because I don't do it every year like you do. But very fun. How different has been what you've had to adjust and market differently in a digital world or an online world when with COVID? How have you guys had to adapt?
Well, look, we have three core pieces, pieces of business. We have festivals, we have touring, and we have media. A lot of our media is generated from festivals, but not all of it. So what we had to do, when I think we're all to some degree panicked, March 2 years ago, we started to say, okay, well, let's think about worst case scenario, which unfortunately was I think our worst case scenario wasn't even the worst case scenario we faced. But we started to say, okay, so there's no in-person. That hurts festivals to a degree. That hurts our concert business, no question, no denying it, although we do touring not just in North America, elsewhere. So there's their ability to do some things where certain parts of the world are in a better place than others, but not much. And we have media. Well, first and foremost, what do we have in media? We have a online presence that we monetize, which is not insignificant. Maybe we can do that better, Rob. Maybe we can make more money to help pay the bills that we can't pay with the things we can't do. Right. We have pretty significant media commitments from Canadian broadcasters and American broadcasters and some international broadcasters. Can we rethink what the deliverables are? So let's say they bought a show in Montreal with celebrity hosts, a bill of a variety of comics on a bill. Well, we can't do that because I can't get those American or famous Canadians in. I can't even get the famous Canadians in unless they're willing to do 14 days quarantine. So let's think about moving our show from Montreal to Toronto, shooting some stand-ups in a venue with Canadian stars, and just rethink what we're delivering. We also went out and got the format for Roast Battle, and we produced 2 seasons of Roast Battle Canada, where we could put a cast together, test that cast to make sure they were safe when they got on set, we weren't going to close our set down because someone got through with a positive, that was positive with COVID. We had to rethink everything. The complex COVID safety measures we had to put in place were complex and costly, but the broadcasters came with us. It was a really interesting challenge. And it was nail biting because, we would be ready to go and boom, the province that we were going to, let's say in the case of Ontario, went from code orange to code red or what code, but now we can't do XYZ. So we have to adjust our production approach. But we never were closed down. We figured out a way to adjust to whatever the measures were. We made great shows. We got our shows renewed. They were very different from what we made a year before. And we're just hoping this year we can go back to making the things without any hindrances. We shoot a big show for CW every summer in Montreal, and we took it and we shot it in LA. Howie Mandel is a part owner and our host. So, this time, instead of getting on a jet and flying to Montreal, he got in a car and drove to downtown LA. So we would do whatever it took to make a show our partners were happy with, our broadcasters were happy with, that we felt was on brand, but had to be modified. So, we had to talk people into looking at things a little differently. And most of them came to the party very open mind. I mean, I think everyone's a little fed up now. They want the thing they bought originally. But for 2 years, we rethought and reimagined everything we made. And again, focused on our monetization online, also our audio monetization. We have a significant catalog that also can be monetized on SiriusXM and, Spotify and all other, platforms. But I'll tell you one thing, Rob, one thing that did help us through the pandemic was we realized that we should be doing a lot more online from our event. We were a little worried and maybe naively that we would cannibalize, certain shows by offering them, to pass holders online, sometimes for free. A lot of our shows were for free. And what we realized is that was not the case, that, fans want to see comedy in person if they can.
Absolutely.
And if someone just can't make it and you can offer them a chance to see a great thing like our award show, Rob, like we're going to try to do that online from now on. Well, why not increase our audience by 1 million set of eyeballs? What are we, crazy? We only have 400 seats. It sells out. We should absolutely make a lot more of our content available to fans and to industry, from the festival. So we'll do a lot more of that in Montreal and elsewhere in the world.
And what shows or comedians now do you see as kind of the most popular, or that sell the most tickets, or that are most in demand?
Well, look, the business is just skyrocketed. I mean, think about it, Rob. When we were doing Chicago, we probably could have put, I don't know how many comics in the United Center, but not 100. But there's probably 100 comedians that can sell out the United Center today. Maybe I'm overdoing it, but it's a big number, and it's a much larger number than when we did Chicago. 7, 8 years ago, I think. It's just the Netflix online have just helped send the business into a whole different place. It's a huge business. I mean, who are the biggest names? I mean, Kevin Hart does a massive touring business, not only in North America, but rest of world. Chappelle does. I mean, Sebastian Maniscalco can sell out multiple arenas in most North American cities. This guy sells real tickets. You turn around. I mean, there's someone that's, 1 minute ago was in New Faces. In the old days, you'd have a 5-year, 10-year path to to an arena. Yeah. A year and a half later, they're in an arena. He or she is in an arena. So there are so many people out there that can do big business. And that could be from a YouTube show. It could be from a sitcom. Often it's not from a sitcom. It could from, Ali Wong from one spectacular Netflix special. I mean, she's 3 in now, but from one Netflix special, she became a massive touring act because she was funny, because she was original, because she wasn't like the others. She found an audience. She spoke to an audience, and she was funny. People want to see their stars live. So the touring business is huge. It's huge around the world. The world's got smaller. Someone that, in the old days could sell tickets in America and a little bit in Canada, and that's it, can sell in every English speaking country. Some stars now like Chappelle and others are doing Paris. Like Dave just did 6 shows in Paris, I assume all sold out in a major venue.
Yeah.
Because one, the French, sophisticated French comedy fans are bilingual. They speak English. They watch French comedians for sure on Netflix, but they want to watch the best of the best. So they will go out and see an American comic, because it's original and interesting, and it's, and they want to see the best. So that, a Chappelle, a Kevin Hart can perform all over the world in countries, and many, many countries that aren't English speaking, one that have expats, but also, more and more comedy fans are in countries you'd never imagine.
One thing I read about you was you had been responsible for producing, I think it was 1,500 television productions, television shows. What brands does that fall under, and where do people, how can people, outside of going live to a festival, how can they digest some of your digital and online content? Where can they go to get that?
Well, look, if you're in Canada, well, you can see us all the time. We're on cable every day. We're on CBC. We're on Bell. We're on the Crave network. Sorry, the Crave platform, which is like a Canadian version of Netflix. It's run and owned by Bell. So we're all over the place. And in the States, currently we have specials on CW, but also our online presence is significant on YouTube. I would say the best place to go would be just Google us on YouTube, and you'll get all kinds of different channels, everything from our stand-up Rob to our candid camera gags format.
Yeah, hilarious.
That's I think 10 now. It must be 12 billion views in. So that's our biggest success online. But stand-up's growing in leaps and bounds. We post on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We're all over SiriusXM USA on most of the networks, and then we have our own channel, JFL Canada, where we don't play our own content. It's a focus on Canadian talent.
I was listening earlier today on SiriusXM, channel 168, listening to some of the programming, and I was watching Bill Burr on your YouTube channel.
Sure.
He's so hilarious. He was that.
Well, he's another guy selling out multiple arenas all over the world. He can sell out the Albert Hall in London, Sydney Opera House, and Madison Square Gardens. He's got a huge live business.
Yeah. So
and still a great friend of JFL performs. He's going to be back July 30th. We have Bill performing in the arena in Montreal on my birthday. And believe it or not, Rob, this old dude is going to be 60 July 30th.
Oh my gosh! Congratulations! Happy birthday!
Well, I haven't got there yet. But, hopefully, I will.
So, if somebody wanted tickets to the festival, they go to hahaha.com or somewhere.
Yeah, everything JFL is at hahaha.com.
Look, we're running up on time. I just want to ask you one more thing, which is, you started, I believe, as a driver, right, for JFL, and have progressed throughout the years. What kind of advice would you give to somebody, early in their career, about sticking with it, or about the seizing the opportunities?
Well, look, I speak to high school students, college students all the time, and I say, don't be precious. Hustle it. Get in the door. Be great. Be the easiest person that anyone's dealing with, even if what you're doing is below what you believe your skill set is ready for. You just got to get in. You got to get in the door. You got to excel. You got to, you don't have to be perfect, but you have to give 110%. And, sometimes I say to a lot of students too, I said, hey, if you got a roof over your head, don't worry about the money.
Yeah.
It's a long game.
That's right.
If someone's not letting you in, offer your services for free. Look, the driver was, I wanted to be in show business. I wasn't, I didn't have the skills to do anything else. So I drove, but guess who you drive? You drive stars and industry, members of the industry. Who did I drive my first summer? Barry Sands, the producer of David Letterman. Guess what Barry said to me after spending to long drives to the airport with me. Here's my phone number. If ever you need anything, you call me.
Wow.
Guess what? I called him. He brought me on a tour of David Letterman. He introduced me to everyone. He said, I'm there if you need a summer job. All I did was drive him. How did I get in the door? I took a driving job. I didn't say, I don't do that. I only want to work in the PR department, or I only want to book things. I just got in the door, and then I realized, that's how you build a Rolodex. Just do a good job with whatever it is. Listen, if you're, whatever you're doing, you don't want to overplay. I mean, I didn't work anyone. I just helped them. Right. I never told them what I wanted to do. I never said, hey, could you help me down the road? I just tried to be good at my job and be helpful. And, and most of the people handed me their card. I didn't ask for it.
Yeah, those opportunities come, right?
Yeah. Don't be complicated. Really don't be a pain in the ass. Right. Do the job well. It's a long game. Mm-hmm. It's a negligible investment for success long term.
Bruce, thank you so much. I've enjoyed this. Been great seeing you again, and thanks for being on the Marketing Chief podcast. It's love talking comedy, love talking show production, talent. Very honored that you would take the time to join us today. So thank you.
Listen, my absolute pleasure. You take care, my friend.
If you like what you hear on the Marketing Chief podcast, be sure to subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast app or YouTube, and give us a rating on Apple Podcasts. We'll see you next time on the Marketing Chief podcast.